Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the Royals and Novak Djokovic. We end with our weekly feature, The Comments of the Week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 112. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra. I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we were supposed to be only off for 2 weeks for the holidays, but I've been sick, so we took an extra week off. I've had a sore throat for like a month. I'm not even exaggerating. Like the first time I went to urgent care was December 13th, so that's a month.
So they did the strep test and they didn't find anything?
No, they didn't do a strep test.
Oh.
On December 13th, they did a flu test and a COVID test, and they were negative. And then I went to my doctor last week because I was still really sick, and she just put me on antibiotics. So I'm feeling better, but I don't know really what it was.
Yeah, I would assume it was probably just a heavy cold or strep or something like that.
I mean, I still am pretty tired and everything. It sucks. But so you wanted to talk about what we're watching, like what we watched over Christmas?
I watched a lot of stuff. You just watched TV and like documentaries and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't really watch a lot because it feels like work, some of these movies. They think they're entertaining to us and they're really bummers. And I'm like, I don't want to sit and watch this whole movie. That's boring.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it because so many movies have just gone straight to streaming. I enjoyed, I'm going to watch this new movie on Friday. That's really cool. I don't have to go out to a theater.
I'm over that.
I first wanted to talk about Dexter New Blood. It ended this past weekend. That, just a standalone 10-episode series, it was so good. Because the original Dexter series, like the later seasons, they got so confusing and so stupid.
Yeah.
And it never made any sense, especially like after Deb found out. Spoiler, that's like 10 years old. But
I remember.
But the new show is so good. And if you were like an old school Dexter fan, you should totally watch it. They brought in so many of the elements of what made the original show really good in the first season. The new characters were really cool.
My mom really liked it. She's been watching it too, and she said that she recommends it. So that sounds cool. I give Showtime because I just glom onto my dad's login, so maybe I could watch it.
Yeah, just as a standalone series, it was great. But the movies I saw that I absolutely loved, I saw The Lost Daughter, loved it. It was a great movie about women.
And that's on Netflix, right?
Yes. And Olivia Colman, I was near the end of the movie and I was just like, oh yeah, she's going to win an Oscar for this. Her second Oscar in like 4 years, something like that.
She's so good, yeah.
It was a very subtle performance from her, and she was so good. Jessie Buckley played the younger version of her character.
Oh, okay.
Jessie was great. I thought Dakota Johnson was pretty good too. And I loved The French Dispatch. Oh my God.
That's a Wes Anderson movie.
Yes, it's very twee. Everything is very twee with Wes Anderson, but everything is whimsical. I can deal with whimsical when it's done properly, and Wes Anderson does it properly. It was a beautiful movie.
Cool. We both saw that Belfast, the Kenneth Branagh movie that he wrote and directed.
Yeah. It was loosely based on his childhood in Northern Ireland, and I enjoyed that. I went in kind of cold. I didn't know a ton about it. Jamie Dornan was great. I don't know how to pronounce her first name, Miss Balfe.
Katrina
Balfe. Yeah, she was great in it, and she's getting nominated for a lot of stuff, which I think is well-deserved. She was a very glamorous housewife.
It was a cute movie. It was very sweet, and you got this real warm feeling from his family, and yet there were some struggles in it, but it wasn't like super fluffy. It felt like it had just enough drama in it. I liked it a lot. It was a nice movie.
As watching it as an American, you're like, holy shit. The whole reason the trouble started, it was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, a lot of these rivalries are stupid, you know? It's like the history is stupid. Yeah, it is.
I know, but I was just like, was that the point of the movie? It was like, really? You're going to do all of that just because Protestant and Catholic? Jesus.
Well, look what we're living through now. I mean, it's asinine. It's ridiculous. Like, you cannot imagine it. But, yeah, I like that movie.
My least favorite movie that I saw, well, it was a kind of a toss-up. So I hated being the Ricardos. That was an awful movie.
I'll fast forward through like 20 minutes of it. Probably. Go ahead.
Nicole Kidman, she's just not Lucille Ball in any way, in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
She's horrible in it. I do not get why she's getting nominated for this role. And she doesn't have to play every famous woman in history. Nicole Kidman is not that capable.
No.
And like, Javier Bardem was good if you didn't know what Desi Arnaz sounded like, looked like, or acted like.
That's a pretty tall order. But I guess you could say the same for Nicole Kidman if you didn't know it. Right? And not that I've seen it yet. But.
Yeah. And like J.K. Simmons is pretty good.
He's good in everything, though. Like, he's...
Yeah, like he was pretty much the soul of the movie. And he was just this grumpy curmudgeon. It was great. He was the only good part, the only part I enjoyed. But yeah, that sucked. And then my other least favorite movie was Monday, which came out a while ago, but I just rented it.
What is it?
It's with Sebastian Stan.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, it's like the story about a fucked up relationship. They meet when they're really drunk as hell, and they live in Greece. Two Americans living in Greece together, and they just have this horrible relationship.
I hate drunk movies. Like, I cannot stand when people cause their own problems by being alcoholics.
Yeah, and yeah, they're just two massively dysfunctional people anyway.
All right, well, I'll watch The French Dispatch when it's cheaper. Well, it is. It's like $5, right? And then I'll fast forward through being the Ricardos. I've been watching 911 and 911 Lone Star, which is the massive ice storm right now. It's like a 3-part intro. It's so dumb and ridiculous, and you could turn your brain off when you watch it.
My mom loves those 911 TV shows.
I got my mom into them too. They're fun. You can't stop watching them. And I watched the Betty White documentary on Netflix. That was really nice, and it was pretty short. And she was a pioneer in a lot of ways. And
oh, yeah.
She kind of underplayed it. You know, she just did her thing, and she was impressive. I subscribed to Discovery Plus, and I've been watching Mount Everest documentaries, like Everest Air, where they fly the helicopters up to save people. And it's all these rich people doing stupid shit to, you know, to say they climbed Everest. And there's a lot of tragedy and stuff, but it was fun to watch when I was sick, because I was like, well, I'm not having to climb Everest, you know. It's pretty... All right, let's talk about the Royals. So the past few weeks, in the lead up and following Kate's 40th birthday, the stories have been ridiculous. Like, you would think they were parody stories, just reading them cold. And sometimes I'll just read what you write, and then I'm like, she's exaggerating. And then I'll read the original, and it's way worse than you are making it out to be, and you're being kind of understated about it. It's crazy.
Well, I think I've gotten sort of, not burnt out, but like, it's just all the same.
I'm burnt out just doing nothing, and you're actually covering it. I'm burnt out on life, you know, not necessarily these obnoxious, terrible royals, but yeah.
I get so used to it. I guess I'm just complacent about how bonkers it is. The Kensington Palace really organized this wall-to-wall coverage talking about how great she is and how normal she is and how she's also perfect and how she's totally accessible and how she's brilliant for not working and like on, and like she's the only one who can soothe William and the Queen loves her and she's better than Meghan. She's better than Meghan in this way and that way and that way.
And she's not flashy like Meghan. Meanwhile, she released these photos. Oh, We could just get into that. Screw all this intro. Like, you guys have probably read it. If you're listening to our podcast, you read us. I'll put links in the post so you can get the background if you want, if you're a rare person who just listens to our podcast and doesn't read us. But the gist of it is she's doing amazingly, but at the same time, she's finally coming onto her own. Like, we've been reading that about it for 10 years. And there's just excuse after excuse for her. And it's bad.
Yeah, and I always joked that at the end of the year, we would get the eventual promise to be keen in the new year story. That's what this was for her birthday, except it was wall-to-wall coverage about how she has already grown into the role, but she also promises to be even keener. She promises that she'll do better, except that she's already so perfect and she's done so much growing into the role.
It's very contradictory. So we also got 3 official portraits of Kate out of 250 photos taken, and we know how many because they told us. And they were by Italian fashion photographer Paolo Roversi. And she's wearing McQueen dresses. One is like a red poofy dress, and one is like this white dress. And one photo is in color, and 2 are in black and white. And it looks like a daguerreotype, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think so.
It just looks like an old-fashioned Civil War widow photo.
The one in color is at such an odd angle.
It doesn't even look like her.
Yeah, I didn't recognize her. Just the first glance through the photos, I did not recognize her at all. And I don't know if that's Photoshop. I don't know if that's the angle of like that one photo of her in the red pink dress, but it was just very odd. And plus her hair is so different. And
her makeup, and they used Facetune on her face or something that's like beyond Photoshop. It's very weird. And then even after those photos came out, we heard that Kate's not flashy. She would be a private person if she wasn't married to William. And, you know, yeah, she played the piano at her Christmas special, but it was to highlight other people.
Meanwhile, there was wall-to-wall coverage of that, too. That, she did the piano recital, and everyone had to watch her, and she made it all about how she performed.
And she faked it, too, because she pre-recorded it in the same outfit she wore to the thing, so that she could get it perfect. No shame in that, but just admit it's pre-recorded.
And everyone was saying that she had a backup pianist there. So I don't know. I have no idea. I could never find the original story if she actually had a backup waiting there for the performance.
And then we heard like how William's still really into her, and they're like this great match.
That was the saddest part of her birthday extravaganza. That really was, because that's what she organized for her birthday, was that everyone had to talk about how William still liked her.
Aw. But how juvenile is this coverage, though? Like, that is really dumb. But then it's also like, I'm so great, I do all this stuff. When you're little, you learn to actually do the stuff instead of talking about doing the stuff. But apparently she never has.
Yeah, and by the way, whenever they did mention her quote-unquote work, it was always just as a throwaway mention of, oh yeah, she also started the Keenwell Institute for buttons. And then it was like, and William adores her. Promise.
What have they even done with that institute? Nothing. What is it? They didn't even show us a picture of the room or whatever. You know, they could put up like a 2-way mirror or make it seem like they're observing kids or something and have like a little play area. Nothing.
Oh, well, no, because Kate is not actually doing the research. That's not the purpose of the Keenwell Institute. The Keenwell Institute...
Oh, you know, huh?
The purpose of it is for her to hijack professionals' work and claim it as her own.
It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
So then we heard this story. This came out kind of at the tail end of all the other stories about her birthday, that she's focusing on her kids and she's going to do like the same number of royal engagements for the next 10 to 15 years. Yeah. This is real.
Louis is going to be 18 years old and she's still going to say, I need to be home for the children.
So we talked about this on Zoom. These are excerpts from last week and this week.
So what are we doing for Kate's birthday?
Everybody's going to wear buttons and mumble that day.
these glowing profiles of her are not flattering at all. I mean, it's just full of really just backhanded compliments. And like she said, are they going to continue to infantilize her when she's 47 and Princess of Wales?
I think the backhanded compliments are on purpose. I really do. I really genuinely think that they dislike her and they can't really say how much they dislike her. So the only way they can do it is to write these pieces that, oh, you want us to write a glowing piece about you? Okay, here's your glowing piece, but I'm going to talk shit about you with a smile on my face, you know?
Doing it with an eye roll. Oh, she's never set a foot wrong and she's an introvert. I'm so confused about all of this.
She doesn't give them anything, though. They have to spin it. Like, this is the material they have to work with. And it's nothing.
I laughed so hard when you said something you said about her recital. That everybody's all excited, like they're going to a 7-year-old's first recital playing the piano.
It was so ridiculous. I didn't see what was so extraordinary about what she was doing. And it was
because she did something. That was what was extraordinary. They were like, oh my God, she's doing something. Even the photos, she's like,
and they don't even know what story to stick with. She has single-handedly saved the monarchy. She's the kingmaker. But, you know, she's really shy. She's really awkward. And she doesn't really know how to talk to the Bidens and other world leaders. Y'all, pick a struggle. I'm so confused about all this.
Do you think the palace was surprised at what the thoughts were on Kate's pictures? Is that why they were so quiet on her birthday? They released the pictures the day before. And then on her birthday was like really quiet. And just wondering if they saw the reaction to the pictures and it didn't land how they thought it was gonna go.
They didn't look like her.
It didn't look like her.
Like at all.
Like the frizzy hair, the airbrushing, like
if I paid money for those and that was me, I'd be pretty pissed.
You know, the one where it looks like they put Vaseline over the lens, you know, the one they used to do like with Dynasty and all that when they try to soften the shot. The picture you see outside of Glamour Shots at the mall.
Yes.
Yeah, the pictures are ridiculous. It reads like some of the coverage is just taking the piss out of her.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that some, not all, some of the royal reporters have been doing what Tatler did a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2020. That's when the Tatler thing came out. They're pretending to embiggen her, and then they're just slicing her. Slice, slice, slice. Paper cut, paper cut.
Like Amira was saying, they don't have a lot to work with, so they're taking what they have and kind of being like, huh? Yeah. With a nudge and a wink.
Oh, and that was another thing. So it was very clear to me, as someone who read all of this wall-to-wall coverage, that Kensington Palace sent out guidance. They sent out outlines and quotes.
Because they're all saying the same thing. It's a talking point thing. Yeah, that was really clear. Yeah.
And like, how absurd must that have been for like every royal reporter saying like, oh, Kensington Palace gave me this packet of shit I'm supposed to write about Kate.
She's kind of nervous, but she's doing great. Meghan is the one who wanted to be on the red carpet and be a star.
Uh-huh.
But look at Kate.
Meanwhile,
She's
Kate hired
shy.
an Italian fashion photographer to come to England and photograph her in McQueen gowns.
And then it's going to be in the National Portrait Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. So while this is happening, the civil case against Prince Andrew is proceeding. That was filed by Virginia Giuffre for abusing her when she was 17. Prince Andrew's lawyer tried to get that dismissed on technicalities, which included a settlement agreement that Epstein paid Giuffre in 2009. And they also tried to argue that she does not live in the U.S. And those were thrown out by the judge. So it will proceed to trial if a settlement is not reached.
Yes. And I mean, the judge is already setting the schedule for when depositions need to happen. And if it goes to trial, it will go to trial in the fall. I would think late fall.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's already noise about Prince Andrew needing to sit for deposition. I mean, that's guaranteed. And that Sarah Ferguson might need to. If I was Virginia's lawyer, I would want to call Sarah Ferguson. And there's even some talk about the York princesses possibly sitting for depositions.
And Fergie has been showing her hand. There have been reports that she's the one who was advising his lawyer. So of course she should have to sit for a deposition. I hope all this shit is taped and released as well.
Well, David Boyce, who's Virginia's lawyer, he's no fucking joke. And he knows that he has Andrew and the royal family by the short hairs. He knows the strength of their position. He's already out there saying, Virginia's not going to settle if it's just purely financial.
Yes.
Which is so smart because they're already trying to lowball Virginia. They're already trying to get her to settle for less money than she would get if the court case, went to the logical conclusion.
So yeah, Virginia's lawyer said that she's not just looking for a financial settlement and that, quote, she hopes that this matter will be resolved in a way that vindicates her and vindicates the other victims. So she doesn't want an NDA. She wants an apology and for Andrew to admit what he did to them.
That's something that's like really cool about Virginia is that she's able to use the legal system to her advantage. And she did the same with Ghislaine Maxwell. She got a settlement out of Maxwell and she didn't have to sign an NDA.
And we just heard today that Prince Andrew's military affiliations and royal patronages, quote, have been returned to the Queen. That was an announcement made by the palace. And, quote, the Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending this case as a private citizen. Now, his titles haven't been revoked, though.
Right. Now, I saw one tweet from Richard Palmer at The Express saying that Andrew was going to choose not to use his HRH style.
Mm-hmm.
His ducal title has not been removed. His HRH has not been removed.
So we're hearing this after 152 veterans of the Royal Navy, the Royal Marines, and the Army sent a letter to the Queen, and they requested that Andrew's military titles be stripped.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is that in the past 2 years, there has been an effort by Buckingham Palace to keep Andrew in his patronages, even though the military doesn't want him.
Yes.
The royal patronages don't want him. They've been trying to get rid of him for 2 fucking years. And the Queen and her aides, they've been saying, no, you have to keep him on. It is ridiculous that it's come to this point, that it's 2022. And she's only now having them removed.
Only as the court case is proceeding. Right. And that's what the letter said, too. They cited the BBC interview and how bad that was in 2019. And just, it took a lot.
For the past 2 years, Andrew has believed and the Queen has believed that there's still a path for him to come back.
And someone paid off his £6.6 million debt on his Swiss chalet.
Right. And then bought the chalet. Yeah, no one knows where that money has come from.
But we're being told the Queen isn't going to pay a settlement.
Yeah. Did the Queen pay for the chalet or did one of his son-in-laws pay for it?
They can't be that rich.
I don't think Jack Brooks' bank has that money.
No.
But Ito might.
Ito's not going to do that, I don't think.
Well.
Maybe, but I'm thinking it's the Queen. All right, I wanted to talk about this because it came out when we were on break. And we got a new photo of the Sussexes from their holiday card that they released to benefit charities. And they were, all 3 of them in jeans. They looked super happy. We got to see the kids.
All 4 of them were in jeans. Or no, Lily wasn't. Okay, never mind.
No, baby is too little to be in jeans.
Little baby jeans.
Little baby jeans. I think I had those for my son. They look so happy. It was a really sweet photo. And they released it for charities. And they let the charities release it for them and told us who to support. And it was a really thoughtful, nice thing that they did. And it showed how chill and happy they are.
Right. And I mean, Archie just has a head full of red hair.
They just look really happy and nice. And then that's all they did. And it was such a contrast to all the bullshit we hear from the Cambridges constantly. And they had that whole choral event, like the whole Christmas thing. But they didn't highlight charities that we really heard about. And it's the same with Meghan and Kate's 40th birthdays. Like Meghan set up the mentorship initiative, and then Kate just bragged about how awesome she is and played the piano and posed in dresses.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
You would think they would copy the Sussexes in the way that matters, which is to highlight charities.
I mentioned this in one of the posts I wrote today. Like, it's ridiculous that Kate and William didn't think to step out to a charity event before her birthday, just for new photos of her. like highlight the fact that she's turning 40 and, you know, here she is. She's so charitable. Look at her. She's doing this charity event right just before her birthday.
I don't think that he wanted to do it. Like, I'm sure she would have done it.
Well, then she should have.
Yeah.
Instead, she just sat on her ass.
No, she posed for those pictures. And took a long time. She had to get her hair done and pick out the dresses. And
Well, no, that happened in November.
oh. All right, let's talk about Novak Djokovic. So you follow tennis a lot, which I'm grateful for because I have no idea what's going on. But he's the number one player in men's tennis, and he's a total anti-vaxxer.
Right.
So he went to Australia last week for the Australian Open, and Tennis Australia, they told the players they could get a medical exemption if they are unvaccinated as long as they've had COVID in the last 6 months. So that's how he traveled there, on a medical exemption.
Right. And that's how he applied for his visa. He basically applied for the visa and said, oh, by the way, I had COVID. I was diagnosed on December 16th. You know, I am free and clear. I'm COVID free, so let me in. And so Tennis Australia, like, they worked it out, they thought, with the Victorian government. But the problem with Novak is that he announced he had a medical exemption just before he flew to Australia. So all hell broke loose as he was on the plane. He walked into Australia in the midst of a shitstorm because people were so mad that he was unvaccinated and that he was entering the country. And they're like, how did he get the visa? What the hell is going on? So it was like the local government and the federal government, they were all trying to like figure this out. So they just detained him at the airport and then they sent him to the quarantine hotel.
He was acting like he was in a maximum security prison, like with a concrete slab bed. After that, it was ridiculous.
Well, I mean, the conditions weren't nice. They weren't comfortable. There were bugs and fleas, and he didn't have access to his team, and he's like a vegan and
bugs and fleas, you're right. It's full of shit. It was probably a totally acceptable hotel. If you pay attention to the celebrities giving interviews, they're all having to stay in the quarantine hotels when they get to Australia.
No, but this was a different kind of quarantine hotel. This is where they send people that they're trying to deport.
Okay. Well, he deserved it. So he did.
Well, I mean, like, the conditions were bad. So anyway, he was at this detainment hotel for several days, and he finally had the court case, and they basically said, no, your visa shouldn't have been revoked. Here's your visa back. You can stay in the country. And then the government was like, wait, but we might try to yank your visa again. And so that's where we are right now on Thursday, the 13th. There are rumors, widespread rumors right now that Australia is still going to deport him.
That would be awesome.
And I keep getting this premonition that he's going to be on Rod Laver Arena, the biggest arena at the Australian Open, playing his first round match. And like border security is going to come out onto the court and drag him off.
That would be pretty awesome. I mean, he deserves it. No, everything
it would be done, iconic.
Yes. So it turns out he had COVID on December 16th. And he issued a statement about it because there's photos of him posing with kids maskless on December 17th. He got exposed on the 14th at an event he went to. So he should have been quarantining. And in his statement, he was like, well, I didn't know I had COVID then, because I was still waiting for my PCR test back.
Right. Either he's lying about having COVID or he was lying about a million other things. You know, like he was breathing on children when he thought he might have COVID. And he also did a magazine interview and photo shoot after he knew he had COVID.
He did test negative on rapid tests before he saw the kids, but he should not have been out.
Right. I mean, he admitted that he knew he had COVID when he did the magazine interview. And like the magazine is now pissed at him.
You didn't tell those people. That's ridiculous. So yeah, we'll see what happens to him, but this has been crazy. Like, it's just a very simple issue. You need to be vaccinated to go to this nation.
Yeah, and 97% of tennis players are now vaccinated, which is great because 6 months ago it was not even 50%. So the Australian Open's vaccine mandate worked. It worked really well, and tennis players got vaccinated over their, downtime. So that was good, but like, They shouldn't have made any exceptions for Djokovic. They shouldn't have tried to get him there. They shouldn't have tried to pull a fast one. I hope he is deported.
It's a big mess. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. So my comment of the week is on that post today about Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly getting engaged. He got her this weird engagement ring that he designed. It's got an emerald and a diamond that are upside down. They're in teardrop shapes, so they look like a heart. It kind of reminds me of Scarlett Johansson's weird engagement ring.
Scarlett's
Right?
is so ugly, and it's just one pair. Hers is just one ugly, like, brown pear diamond, and then it's got a brown band. It's a horrible ring.
That's an ugly. This one is kind of fug, too.
It's very 80s. Doesn't that remind you of, like, all the big designer rings in the 80s?
Yeah, that's very much their aesthetic is tacky. So in Megan's post about it, she wrote that they were engaged in multiple lifetimes or something, and karma, and they went through hell together, and then after they drank each other's blood. And she just dropped that. Like, they really did drink each other's blood. It wasn't some figurative thing she was talking about. No.
Well, don't you get it? They're goth vampires. They are hardcore. They are edgelord.
They're so edgelord. So my comment of the week is from Eurydice, and they say, wow, intoxication and karma, multiple lifetimes, and brooding and blood takes me back to Buffy and Angel. It's very much their aesthetic.
It's very Angelina Jolie in the 90s, right? That's how she was.
But she was an original back when she did it.
Yeah, she was.
Megan Fox has never been original.
I find them harmless. I do. Megan and Michigan.
I think they're harmless too, but they bug, They could be harmless and also annoying.
Yeah, a little bit goes a long way with the two of them. All right, my comment of the week is from the Duchess Kate's portraits. And I mean, that was a huge post. I posted on a Sunday. It got more than 500 comments because everyone was clowning on the portraits. And one of the funniest comments, which cracked me up and it's still making me laugh, was from Carrot Face, who said in part, I will say I do sort of like the one with the Victorian sanitarium vibe, but it's just such an odd choice for her to basically be cosplaying a wealthy Victorian invalid. It feels very, I have consumption, but I'm still pretty. Which maybe is what she is going for.
That photo was so washed out and unflattering, and it did look like those Civil War bride portraits. Like, it was such a throwback in a bad way.
Yeah, it was.
Including the fashion.
I get that she was actually trying to do a throwback and she was trying to say, oh, here's the monarchy's line and, Queen Victoria to me. But it was too dated. For someone who cosplays and is not a modern woman, it didn't read like she thought it would.
Yeah, it was really dated. It also underlines the issues with the monarchy. How it's not modern, how it's stuck in the past.
I think monarchies can be modern. They can represent the people or be important to unify a nation. I just don't think the British monarchy is that anymore.
It's not, especially the way they're handling Andrew versus Harry.
Right.
How long it took to strip Andrew's military patronages versus Harry, they took him away right away. And he couldn't even put a wreath at the cenotaph on their Veterans Day. Come on, how petty is that? He didn't do anything except establish boundaries, but his uncle is a rapist and he gets coddled and protected.
And what's painful about the Andrew thing is that you can tell how little guidance Buckingham Palace is actually giving reporters because just of the wide variety of reactions. There are some saying the Andrew scandal has the potential to bring down the monarchy. And then the other ones are like, oh, no, Andrew's fine. No one cares about Andrew anymore. Andrew's not the show.
This is becoming mainstream news. Like, I'm hearing about it on NPR and stuff. Like, it's not just focused in celebrity gossip. It's not just focused in the UK. It's a huge international story. And if they don't handle Andrew and do a lot more to restrict his access, it's going to make them look terrible. They already look terrible.
Right. Which is also how I feel about Novak Djokovic. I'm like, as someone who follows tennis, I'm like, I cannot believe how much attention the Djokovic story has gotten.
When a niche story bleeds into the mainstream news, that person probably really fucked up badly. You know?
And like everyone's like, wait, isn't he an anti-vaxxer? I'm like, yes, he has this long history. I'm like, I'm enjoying that part of it of like, yes,
being
this
able
is
to explain
gossip.
it.
This is what I've been talking about for years.
It's your job, you know. All right, well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was.